I really wanted to do this topic. I think I even picked this topic or like saved this topic before I even went on maternity leave because I think it's such an important one. And it's something that I feel like I'm like always having this conversation. And sometimes, when you're like always having the conversation, it almost like you forget to like make it a topic because it seems like so obvious. And I remember having this conversation with a client being like, why have I not talked about this a little bit more? It seems so obvious, but that is what we're doing today, talking about the obvious thing that seems so obvious, but sometimes we miss or forget, or all the messaging in the online space kind of tells us the opposite of. So we will talk about all the things, but today's giveaway is the MSE bundle. So that includes a bunch of videos we did, the MSE framework, like a challenge that goes along with them of different like MSE activities to do every day. It's really robust and really fun. So if you comment on today's live, you will be entered to win that, and highly, highly recommend it. I think it's just such a good way to, what is always my goal with these things is not just to tell you what to do, but tell you how to think about business. And so hopefully the bundle does that for you as well. It gives you more of like a frame of reference with which to think about your business, which doesn't sound as great as it should, but there's nothing better than knowing kind of like the lens through which to look at all of the challenges that you're facing or all of the results that you want, instead of kind of feeling like I'm just lost in an abyss that is the online space. And I kind of don't know how I should be thinking about my next step or my next action. And so hopefully that helps you do that. So that is that. If you make any comment today, we'll pick a winner tomorrow. Okay, cool. So let's talk. So the one thing that's stopping you from the results that you want. Here's the good news. Oh, let's start with the bad news. Here's the bad news. The biggest trap in the online space, and you guys know I say this all the time, but it's important, so we're going to say it again. The biggest trap in the online space is that idea that someone has a secret that we don't know. That is by far the biggest issue. And the biggest truth or the good news is that you usually don't not know the things, you're just usually not doing the things, right? And I think that that's really, really, really important because in many ways, the online space tells us the exact opposite. It literally tells us that someone else has a secret, someone else knows something that we don't, there's a strategy we're not doing. And if we just find the secret, then everything will start working for us. But 9 times out of 10, we know what we should be doing. There's just a part of us that's not doing it or is resistant to it or has, mindset stuff around it or thinks it's going to be hard, or like name 50 reasons why we don't do the thing that we know we're supposed to do. We could talk about that, right? But the idea that it's not working because you don't know something is really, really false. And if you think about it, and I'm like curious what y'all's thoughts are when you hear it like this, but it's almost hysterical that 90% of our industry is built on this idea that someone has a secret strategy that we don't know, because you can literally just watch someone and know their strategy. Like, have we ever thought about that? You can literally just follow someone on social media, be on their email list, watch them, and know what their strategy is. So then the fact that we're buying programs saying, I'll tell you the secret strategy, is actually hysterical, right? Again, like I'm not trying to like shame anyone or say that that's bad. It's just funny what our brains will do. Right. And I'm not like advocating for like, don't buy from anyone, just go like funnel hack them or something. I'm just saying that like, it's funny that it seems like such a secret. Now, if you want to buy from them because you watch their strategy and you really like how they lay it out and you want to learn from them how to like implement that a little bit better for yourself, rock on, like buy the thing. But the fact that like you could literally watch someone's and then we think, oh gosh, I wonder what her strategy is. I should buy that program. She must know something I don't know. What? That makes no sense, right? But it really, really is what the marketing is in our space. And it's why it gets so confusing and why so many people spend so much time thinking there's something I don't know, there's something I don't know, there's a secret that I'm missing, because all of the marketing kind of tells us that. But again, like none of it's a secret. Like every single person that's watching my business could know my exact strategy. They could be like, oh, well, she goes live in her group once a week. She's cultivated an active Facebook community. She does 3 client stories on Instagram a week. She has a podcast. She sends an email that combines all of these resources that she creates each week into putting it out. She has a wait list. Like it's so obvious. It's like, right? But the irony is I could definitely be like, I'll sell you a program that's a strategy for how to like whatever, build a wait list or something. And it's like, well, like you could just see the strategy. Does this make sense? Patricia says, LOL, that is so true. Exactly. Steph says, I think it's because the pace of success makes it think we're missing the secret 100%. And I think it's just so helpful to have that context and to know that where it's like, oh, that's just an easy trap to fall into. And like, that's okay, even if I do fall into it sometimes, but I just have to kind of be real with myself about like what's actually happening here. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just wanted to like make that point because I think it's so powerful once you really see it like that to be like, oh, there's literally nothing I don't know or couldn't literally find out for free in terms of like what someone is doing. Okay. Now, again, that doesn't mean don't buy a program or don't get support or don't get condensed support on trying to say, oh, I love, love, love how she's running that. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that. I'd love to, you know, be able to implement something similar. By all means, like certainly not saying don't buy a program, but buy it with this in mind. Buy it with this context of the fact that you already probably know their strategy, but you're buying the program to like help you implement it because that is the thing that is actually stopping most of us from getting the results that we want is not something we don't know. It's something we're not doing. Okay. So if you buying this next program helps you do more, by all means, but please, please, please don't buy from this place of, I don't know. I think that that truly is the absolute toughest place to be. And like the second thing I'll say about that is just because you know you should do something, it doesn't mean it's easy to do. So that's all the stuff we typically need support around. Does that make sense? Again, so the online space is like, there's all this stuff you don't know. And if you just knew it, you would have the secret and, you know, make $1 million in 2.5 seconds. It's really not how it works. It's more like you probably know and see all the things you should be doing, but there's probably a lot of things that make that feel really hard, whether that's mindset stuff or limiting belief stuff, or that you need a team, or that, you know, you want part of their strategy, but not all of their strategy, or that like they're making a lot of money, but they're doing it in a way that maybe wouldn't align for you. So you need to figure out what does. Like there are all these other things that are actually in the gap between like, do I know what I should do and am I doing it? And that's where most of our results lie. It's not in, if I just don't know what to do. If someone would just tell me the secret, then I would do it. Does that make sense? And it's really, really helpful when you get to that place to realize that, because then what you get to bring it back to is what do I actually want to do? Because these are also different things, right? Hey, Nikki. Oh, I'm so glad you're here too. Thank you. So these are different things. What you want to do may be very different. So like, again, from this perspective of like, I could just know everyone's strategy. I might still not want to do all those things. Like maybe there's someone I look up to online and I can see their strategy is that they're on stories 4 times a day. They're sending out, you know, 6 sales emails a week. They're, you know, making 4 reels a week, whatever. Okay, great. I just literally know their strategy. The question is, do I want to do that? And that's also okay if the answer is no. And so it might need to look different than you. But do you notice how that's not what we do? We watch their stuff and we think, oh gosh, they must have a secret that I don't. I should definitely like buy from them or do the thing with them, figure out what that is, and then implement it. And then what happens, and here's the kicker, and I would be so interested if you're here, if you're like, oh my God, I've totally done this. No shame in it. We've all done this. But if you feel like telling us, that would be great. But here's what we do. So then we buy the thing because we're like, oh my gosh, they're so great. They must be doing something that I don't know about. I'm going to buy their program. Then we buy their program and they teach us shit like make 4 reels a week, post on stories 4 times a day, send 6 sales emails a week or whatever I said. I can't remember exactly what I said. And we're like, oh, I roll. I already know all this shit. Why did I even buy this program? This is so annoying. This program is not helpful. This coach isn't helpful. What the fuck? Right? Because we were expecting a secret that we don't know. I have seen so many people get so pissed about programs that they've bought because they've been like, well, I already know all this. I even had someone not all that long ago join the Value Centered Sales Mastermind. Like all the sales process stuff I teach is in there. And they basically were like, well, I already know a lot of the sales process stuff. And I was like, right. Correct. I'm sure you do. So why aren't you doing it like that? Like, let's work on that. Let's do that. Let's look at that. Does that make sense? But this idea of like, I should be able to buy a program and they tell me something I've never heard of, have no idea about, never seen them do. And then I implement it and it works perfectly. We are living in a dream world. Granted, the dream world is sold to us. So I'm not saying we're wrong in doing that. Oh, hi guys. Hi, Shantae. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for being here. But do you know what I mean? Like that's what's sold to us. So it makes sense, but why we're living there. But like when we play it out like this, can we all just see how crazy that is? And why we get so frustrated sometimes with the investments we make and why we are so quick to get in a program again. And the first time someone talks about ideal client again, we're like, if one more person talks to me about ideal client, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. But like, have you done that ideal client exercise? Can you tell me about your ideal client front to back? Do you know her like the back of your hand? Like, that's where the gap is. Does this make sense? Jess says, what do I want to do is the eternal question. Exactly. But exactly that, right? The gap is in, it's not that I don't know something, it's that I'm not doing something. What I might have to do to fill that gap is decide what I want to do. But the gap is still in the doing. It's not in the not knowing. You know what I mean? Hi, Michelle. She said, we're at the store striking out left and right on what we're looking for, but just needed to pop in and say hello. I was just thinking about you. So happy to have you here. Thank you. Hoping that you find exactly what you're looking for too. But yeah, so like how many of us have like bought the program and I rolled it when they start talking about like ideal client or like post consistently or whatever. And we're like, oh my God. I remember I did this when I was new in business. I bought someone's program on like how to grow your email list or something. And it was like all the things I was already doing and was like very like obvious stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I cannot believe how obvious all of this is. How are they selling this program? And then I was like, how did I think there was going to be something in here that I wasn't already obvious or I didn't already know? You know, what was more true is that there were 3 things in there probably that I like knew I just wasn't doing. And so I can decide, okay, I just don't choose to do those things. And so if my email list grows slower, that's totally okay. I'm just choosing not to do that. Or I can decide, oh, all this did was reflect to me that I'm just not doing those things. What if I just did them? You know what I mean? Patricia said I had invested in so many programs and then realized what I need is support to do the thing. Exactly that. And that is my point today. What's stopping you from the results you want is just figuring out what's keeping you from doing the things. I have rarely, if ever, seen a business in the 7 years I've been doing this. 7 years this month, which is crazy. I've rarely, if ever, seen a business in the 7 years I've been doing this where someone was truly doing all the things and it just never works for them. I'm not saying there's sometimes not a time delay or we sometimes don't have mindset stuff to work through even when we're doing the things, but at the end of the day, that's what's going to get us results is that we're doing the things and we're staying in it. It's not, oh, there are all these people that are just doing all the things and never getting a result. That's not the case, y'all. Like it's usually like there are all these people that know all the things that they should be doing. They're just finding it very difficult to do them because that's how us humans are wired and that's how we work, right? Um, and that's why the results aren't happening. But knowing it is what's tricky because it tricks us into thinking we've done it. Does that make sense? So, like, I'm going to give you the ideal client exercise example again. Just because I know that's what I should be doing, my brain almost tricks me into thinking that I've done it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, yeah, I know that. I know that. I know that. I know that. But what it does is it stops me from actually being like, but did I fucking do that? Like, yeah, I might have seen 20 ideal client worksheets, but have I like done one to the point of like knowing that, like I know, how to spell my own name? Probably not, is the truth, right? Um, thank you, Cindy. She says this is some tough love that I needed to hear. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Shantae says, I completely agree. We're so quick to jump to the next thing instead of sticking with it until it works. But that's where coaching comes into place. Exactly. Exactly. And that's like another point that I want to make is like, this is why personally, right? It's not to be true for everyone, but this is why personally I am such a believer in one-on-one coaching because I think it is the thing that helps you really identify where the gap is. And like, I know all this stuff, but I'm not doing it. So there's obviously stuff that's keeping me from it. Let's look at that. Let's go there. Let's get coaching support on that. But again, most of us just don't want to go there sometimes. It's so much easier. And this is something else. Like, it's so much easier. And our brains love it so much more to think about just that next thing, that next thing, that next thing. It's hard to have a coach, sit with you and kind of be like, nope, you still have to do the same thing. Like, let's just get out of our own way in doing it. An example I was thinking about with this, I wrote down a few examples that I wanted to share, but an example that I was thinking about, this was one of my clients who, she was selling a program and it was like a high ticket, high touch program. So it was like, would have sales calls and things like that. And she just wasn't seeing the conversions she wanted to see, like at all. And, what she wasn't doing was follow up. You know what makes all the difference in seeing a lot of conversions? Follow up. You know what wasn't a surprise to her? That she should do follow up. Do you know what she still wasn't doing? Follow up. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, she knows this shit. She just wasn't doing it. And so, yeah, she could go buy another program on like how to create more conversions, but she'll probably be pissed when she joins that program and they tell her to do follow up. Do you know what I mean? So what we had to do in our container wasn't to like go over and over all the things she needed to do. It was like, well, the one thing you're not doing, how do we get out of your way to do it? Right. I want to read your comments because I think I just lost Nikki's. But I think she was just saying like that it takes a lot of self-awareness, which it does to be able to be like, I want that coaching, that one-on-one instead of just the magic secret takes a lot. Right. Yeah, and Steph said same. One-on-one coaching is so powerful for that exact reason. Elisa says, oh my gosh, that message. Yes. For me, currently, it is not so much about the business doing, because I honestly am very great at doing all the things there, but about doing the things outside of business that I know will serve me to be able to hold everything I'm calling. Totally. Exactly. And it's the same thing, right? It's still something you're not like doing in the sense of like it's outside of the business, but like you already know the answer, like that's the ticket. Oh, that's so sweet. Lynn says, I'm getting a lot of baby smiles over here. Baby Cameron obviously agrees. We love you, baby Cameron. Oh, that's so cute. I wish, well, I guess you could. If you could, can you put a picture in comments? I don't know. If you could, we will take smile pictures. Shantae said, totally great example. Yeah. So that example of she just wasn't doing the follow-up and knew she needed to do it. And then when we dove into it, like, there was a lot of reasons she wasn't doing it. She was feeling a lot of fear there, all of this stuff, but like, she didn't need to go take a course on follow-ups. Like, she knows how to do follow-ups. It's not hard. You follow up and say, hey, how you doing? Right. But that was the gap. And then of course, once she did that, that's when she saw the results. But notice how she could have gotten trapped in a cycle for months or years being like, gosh, I'm just never seeing the conversions I want. Let me take this program. Let me do this thing. Let me take this next thing and learn this next strategy. And at the end of the day, all of them are coming down to some version of check in with a person And she still doesn't want to do that. And so she's in all this tension and frustration because now she's taken 4 other programs on this, but she's still not doing the thing or getting the results. And so she thinks there's something wrong with her. And now she's more, in the hole in terms of what she's invested. She's feeling more pressure. It's getting more intense. Like, this is what happens to everyone in our space all the flipping time, because they're not getting that support that's really helping them look at, well, what if you just knew all the things and you just weren't doing the things, right? And like, that's what's wrong, I think, with so many of the course models in our space, is because they'll tell you all the things, but when it comes to any support for doing them, it's kind of like, that's all on you. So if you're not showing up and doing it, like, what can I say? And again, to a certain extent, they're right, because you bought in a program that's built like that. So they're correct, and like, they can't really deliver more service there. But to me, it's just missing the fundamental point of, like, we humans are way more complicated than just know what I need to do and do it. The gap in between is huge. So another example I have of this is a client who was getting massive, massive results, like just taking off, things were blowing up, all the sales, all the stuff, right? And then she got a lot of clients and a huge program and all of the things from that, right? And she just stopped going live on video and showing up regularly, because she was like now kind of in service delivery a ton for all of these things that she sold when her business, blew up from that. And so then she had another launch and it didn't go quite as well. I mean, it still went well, right? But it didn't go quite as well. And she was so frustrated and kind of like, what the fuck? Like, what am I missing? What am I like, what don't I know? Like, all the things, right? And when we looked at it, it's like, nothing. You just stopped doing the thing that was working. And so all you have to do is do the thing again that was working. And it sounds so obvious. And it sounds like, well, why would someone pay you a lot of money to just tell them that? But that's why, is because it's usually so simple that our brains won't even go there. And we make it so much more complicated and are sometimes willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars and months and months and months of our lives spinning out, trying to figure out what's the thing that's going to make this all click, when I already knew that and I literally just stopped doing it. And I just need someone to be like, hey, remember how you were always doing this thing and it worked really well, and then you just stopped doing it? What if we just did it? Do you know what I mean? So I really want to make this point, because it's so rare that someone just has no idea. And again, we can just find all these things out, right? Like, these are knowable things. Like, you could just follow me for a couple weeks and know every strategy I use. These are knowable things, right? For free. But what is not is getting back into that place again and again of realizing, like, I probably know the things. What am I not doing? Patricia said, I know I had so much resistance to selling one-on-one because I wanted to do a group instead. And every program was saying, fill your one-on-one first. Oh, right. I still get what you're saying. So it's basically like, you just kept getting all this stuff of like, this is the way you're supposed to do it. And then it creates all this resistance to actually doing it because it's not what you want to do. This is the problem, right? Versus if you have someone that's like really helping you figure out, what do you want to do? And then how do we do it? And what are you not going to throw up a ton of resistance around because it actually feels good and you actually want to do it? That would be interesting. So yes, totally agree with that. And, again, we so know the things, like, you knew what you wanted to be doing, like, you knew what strategy you wanted to be using. But all this stuff that says like, no, that would be wrong, you're missing something, is so easy to get in our head. Jess said the other not knowable or not as obvious thing is how long people have been doing it. So we do the thing once and expect the result. Could not agree with that more. Like, again, you could know my strategy. Like we just said, to follow me for a couple of weeks and know my strategy. What you would miss, though, is that I've been building that strategy for, again, this month, 7 years now, right? I didn't have a podcast when I first started. I didn't go live every week. I didn't do like most of the things that I'm doing now. at the beginning. And most of them, I just added one thing a year, which is a totally separate conversation. But that is a really fair point, is that we're kind of comparing like that person's strategy. So it's like if someone followed me and they're like, okay, I'm going to just do emails exactly like Lacey. I'm going to do 3 client lessons a week. I'm going to go live once a week, whatever. Well, that's still going to take time for that to build up. It doesn't mean it's not working. It just takes time for that to build up. And what we do, again, to this endpoint, is we just stop doing the thing because we think it's not working. Then we go chase the next strategy that would also need time to work. So at the end of the day, most of our issues, and thank you, Jess, that's a really good point. Most of our issues come back to there's something I'm not doing, or I haven't been doing it enough to actually see those results. It is so rare that it's like, there are just all these secrets and somebody has them and I don't know them. And if somebody would just tell me them, I would. No. I have one more example I don't want to forget. I'm going to remember it. Hi, Lucy. Elisa says, with a lot of my clients, this is true for mindset work as well. Like, yeah, that's important. I know, but then not actually doing it. Luckily, they have me. Okay, well, perfect, Elisa, because that was my literal next example. I just had this conversation with a client recently who, when we started working together, really did not like mindset at all. And then once she really got into it, really embraced it in a big way, did a ton of it, blew up her business with it, and has just really hit a plateau recently, and was kind of like, okay, well, there must be something I'm missing. Like, I've plateaued. What's the thing? And it was like, well, the thing is, you're not doing the thing that always worked. It's like, you're just not doing mindset anymore. And such a big part of her was resistant to that reflection that I gave her, and was like, no, it has to be something else. It must be something else. It can't be that. I mean, I know I should do that, but it's not that. Like, we don't want it to be this simple thing sometimes, because this industry has conditioned us that it's so complicated and there's so many secrets, and like all these people have all these secrets that you don't know. Right? No. So, so we think it has to be so much more complicated, and we don't do the really simple things that have always worked. Like the other example I gave you, the simple things were like, get on video more, do follow-up, do your mindset. Like, these are not things that anybody listening to this live stream does not know about. Like, truly, right? And these clients that I'm giving you examples of are, I'm trying to think, one is making 600K this year, probably. One's making probably 2 million this year. And like, they're far along in business. It's not like, oh, they're just like new babies and they forget this stuff. Like, no, like, they've been doing this for a long time. It's just so easy to get tricked into that idea that it has to be something else. It has to be more complicated. And so the other thing is that you really want to find a coach that is willing to help you simplify it, and doesn't almost like, I think a lot of coaches unnecessarily, because they're bringing their own shit to it, overcomplicate it as well, because they feel like they want to almost like prove something to their clients. So in that case, for example, when someone's saying to me like, oh, it can't just be mindset, what else, what else, what else? I kind of have a fork in the road as a coach. I can be like, listen, I have coached you for 2 years at this point. Like, I really truly believe it's this. And like, let's dive into this and let's have this reflection. Or I can be like, okay, you think it's something else? Well, have you tried this? And what about this? And what about this? And let's try this. And like, and kind of like get in the like muck and mess with them, and throw a bunch more strategies at them to like kind of prove that I'm like a great coach, or that I know my shit, or that I have different strategies up my sleeve, or whatever, you know? But to me, the best coach is the one that's like going to give you the tough reflection and be like, it's actually this simple. Are you willing to make it this simple? It's actually this easy. Are you willing to go back to ease, instead of like, okay, well, let me prove my worth to you by being willing to overcomplicate this with you. You know what I mean? So that's another point too that I want to make, is like, it's usually something we're not doing. It's usually really simple, but sometimes we need that support that's willing to, one, help us see why we're not doing it, but two, also have the reflection that it can be simple, instead of someone that will kind of like go on a wild goose chase with us too, you know? Shantae said, totally. I personally think a good coach isn't the one who will spiral with the client, but will hold them to an honest, real reflection. Exactly. Exactly that. Perfectly said. Right. And like you said below that, like, because we're conditioned to believe it's more complicated than it is. Right. And so if you find yourself kind of constantly leaving calls or programs or experiences feeling like, oh, it's so complicated and there's another thing I have to do and there's more I don't know. And, like I need to go try these 5 different strategies my coach gave me this week. Like, that is not what you're looking for. That is not what is ultimately going to get you more of what you want. What is going to get you more of what you want is being willing to pick the very simple strategies that work. Again, all of the reflections I gave you were like follow up, live video, mindset work. These are not crazy things. These are things you probably see every single person that's, creating success online doing. And they're not hard. They're just things that we have to get out of our own way to do. And so if you feel like it's getting way complicated past that point or way harder than that, that's the time to stop and be like, I think I'm solving the wrong problem here. What I really need to solve is, am I doing the basic things that actually work? And same reflection for like, if you get into a program and you're eye rolling that program the whole time you're in it, like, I know this, I know this, I know this. Okay. Are you doing that? Because 9 times out of 10, we're not. And do you have support in that program to help you figure out why you're not doing it? And if not, where are you going to get that support? I think that is so, so important to keep looking at, keep asking ourselves, and also keep being willing to kind of be a fierce advocate for ourselves on that, if that makes sense, because most people don't want to sell you. And like, let's just be truthful here. Most people don't want to sell you. Like, I'll sit with you and work through all the muck, all the crap, all the shit that comes up to help you do the thing. Most people just want to tell you what to do and then like place all the responsibility on you to go do it and like kind of peace out. I mean, it's just true. And it's easier in some ways and it's harder in others, but like that would be a lot of people's preference. And so making sure you're being a fierce advocate for yourself and finding the support, the person, the program, the whatever that's willing to like sit with you in the mess to figure this stuff out, instead of is more like, nope, that part's not on me. I'll just tell you what to do and then you figure that out. Again, not that there's not a place for things like that can guide us in the right direction, but having only that without some balance of like, who's helping me sit in the stuff, give me honest reflection, look at all the things that are coming up and getting in the way of that, that's really not going to be the thing that moves you forward. So the point for today is that the thing you are missing is typically what you are not doing. Even like if you look at all the programs that you've taken, like it would be such a cool thing to be like, am I either doing all the things that they said that, I could be doing, or have I actively decided I'm not going to do those things for a specific reason? And am I okay with that? Instead of thinking like, well, I've taken all these programs and I don't have the result I want, so I must be missing something. No, just no. Does that make sense? But we can make the choices on what we want to do, but have you been intentional about that? Like, oh, I took this program and I'm going to take this thing, and this thing from it because that feels really good to do. But I'm going to leave this thing, and this thing because it doesn't. But I'm intentionally choosing that, which is very different than like, where's the next secret? This didn't get me what I wanted. Well, I also chose not to do 6 of the things, which is totally cool, but that might change my outcome. Does that make sense? So I really hope that the takeaway is it can be easy. If it's getting overcomplicated, you're probably doing the wrong thing. It's like that. There's a quote that I have on my sales page that says, it's a Nietzsche quote, and he says, they muddy the waters to make it seem deep. And I think that for me is like the epitome of like the online space to a certain extent. And so what he means is like, we put all of this complicated stuff around it to make it seem like the secret or hard or difficult or like something you have to hire me for, like to find out like the Instagram reel strategy. And like Instagram reel strategy is just like do reels that your audience likes and post them consistently. You know what I'm saying? But we can muddy those waters to make them seem deep. So people think they're missing something and want it. But at the end of the day, It's just like, don't buy the like, what's the Instagram real strategy thing. Figure out what is in your way of doing them if you feel really aligned to doing them. And that's what feels like it's going to get you the most success. Right. So I hope this was useful today. I hope it was a little bit of a butt kicking. I'm sure this is not something revolutionary, but I also think it's something we need to be reminded of really consistently so that we can keep taking our power back in a space that is lovely and enriching and so helpful in so many ways. I'm not trying to hate on the online space in totality, but there are parts of it that can be really difficult and take our power. And so just a moment to kind of have that mirror to be like, is that what's happening to me? What do I already know that I could be doing? And then how do I get out of my own way enough to do it before I go chase that next secret? That is the thing you can ask yourself this week that will truly, truly, truly change the game. Trust me. And also, do I have support that's helping me do that? Obviously, big, 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 big thing of one-on-one over here, but that doesn't have to be the only support that helps you do that. But do you have the support to help you do that? That would be another question, because that is the game changer. So I hope that helps. So happy to be back with you guys. Reminder, if you comment today, you're entered to win the MSE bundle, and we will pick someone for that tomorrow. I hope this was a good reflection point for everyone, and I will be back next week. I'm just so happy to be doing these consistently again. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Elisa says, thank you. Butt kick to do my meditation this evening. Bingo. Yes. So good. Mindset is so often the thing we know we should be doing, but are not doing, right? So kudos to you for doing that. All right, guys, I love you. I appreciate y'all, and I will see you next week. Bye.